Hello, everyone. This is Butch Porter. You're listening to the Rules of the Game podcast. And today we're doing another education special here in Loudoun County. With me is the one and only, the myth, the legend, Charles McDowell with Hard Work Martial Arts. Welcome, Charles.
Thank you. I appreciate it. How's it going?
I'm good, man. I'm blessed. You know,
Nice.
It's Friday. I don't know what that means anymore. I'm not really sure if it's any different than any other day, but supposedly it is still Friday. And so if I seem to recall, many years ago, before coronavirus, we used to celebrate Fridays as sort of the end of the week or, whatever. So those listening, this won't be Friday. What's that?
Back in times of old.
That's right. Well, we're all Zooming today, as anyone watching on video can tell. So there's a little bit of a delay. So we'll try to manage that the best we can. So Charles, tell us about Hard Work Martial Arts, how that came about. I love the name, and explain that to us too. When I learned what that meant, I was really excited. So go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So myself and my partner, we've been training in martial arts over 30 years and teaching for probably 12, 13 years in different studios and up to the state, national, and Olympic levels. And we studied different arts and different styles, but the one we originally started with was traditional old school Olympic Taekwondo. And in addition to our background, I also have a background in Chinese Kung Fu and Judo, as well as our other instructor has a background in Chinese Kung Fu as well. And one of the things we did, the goal of our studio when we opened it was to bring real solid self-defense and character building based martial arts back to the community. A lot of martial arts studios nowadays tend to have a focus on getting kids in the door, making a lot of money, selling belts, selling, memberships. And our goal is to stay small, high quality, and really bring the best martial arts training back to the community. And through that, use it as a lens to bring out the best in our students.
Sure.
Be that a physical goal or like a mental goal. The name Hard Work Martial Arts comes from actually our Kung Fu background. The words Kung Fu literally translate to effort over time, which is loosely translated directly to hard work. And we believe that, you're not going to get anything out of something that you don't put into it. So, we don't expect high quality athletes. All we expect is our students to work hard, put the effort in. We'll work with them and they will progress at their pace until, they become exceptional versions of themselves, mental, physical, social, parts of their community, whatever. That's our real goal. We're trying to keep it affordable and, not nickel and dime everybody. Because as a kid, when I started training, it was real expensive.
Sure. No, it can be. So what have you learned? What did you learn over the spring? Like when the corona hit us and people were looking for things, right? They're looking for things to help. And I mean, I'm sure you've done a lot of stuff over Zoom, like this as well, but
we started doing Zoom online classes. A lot of our students, we technically fall under the gym category. So for March through May, we were 100% shut down. We did manage to have our childcare and after school program and summer camp start early, but that was entirely because one of the things we believe is getting ahead of the curve. And when we saw that this might become an issue, we went to the Department of Social Services and we got our coronavirus training and certification for cleanliness and all that. And we're one of the few martial arts studios that managed to stay open even a little bit during that period of time. And 90% of our classes were done through Zoom. We do them all one-on-one private training style. So we maintain the quality, which means I'm sitting in front of this laptop, 8, 10 a day.
Often? Yeah. This is not a rare circumstance for you, like at all.
Yeah, Monday through Friday, we're sitting right here. I have a projector that is normally up on the wall so I can check student technique and stuff. So it's
Do you find, or did you find, or have you found, or are you finding that some kids it doesn't work as well over Zoom and it's hard to connect? Or
absolutely.
So tell me more about that.
Some students, martial arts in general, kids who have their parents put their kids in martial arts for activity or focus engagement training. it's hard for them to stare at a screen, and they're going to have that in the school year too, unfortunately. But some students we've had excel. They one-on-one training and the one-on-one through the screen time, they don't feel like they need to be embarrassed around other students, so they can focus better.
Sure.
And some students are the exact opposite. They can't stare at a screen, especially younger kids we found. Like, we have programs in person that start at 3 years old, but our Zoom classes, I found anything younger than 7 or 8, they
No.
can't focus.
My daughter did a ballet class over Zoom for a few weeks, and the instructor was great. I mean, she really was. She's 4, my daughter, and so, but yeah, there's only so much of that, like a 4-year-old could take. Well, if you had to pick a couple of things to tell parents or to advise parents on helping them have a better Zoom education experience, what would you think? Can you think of any things to advise kids or advise families on making that easier?
Yeah, there are a few things. One is entirely pragmatic, like don't backlight the students, don't have a window behind you.
That's right. No, look, and I would never say anything about any of our previous guests about having a window behind them. Chad Hamill and Hamill. But no, they definitely shouldn't, because you want to see their eyeballs, right? You want to see.
Yeah, we can't see them very well, especially if you're doing something physical like appraising technique or movement, whether it's dance or martial arts. But
sure.
Quieter locations where there's less foot traffic is always ideal if they're going to be doing online classes, especially by younger kids. Just like any classroom, you don't want them to be distracted by stuff going
What about the ones who have trouble focusing and paying attention? Is there anything that they can do to prepare or make it easier?
Yeah,
I mean, some are not going to be able to in the short term, like, do it.
Yeah,
right?
no.
I mean, that's in
what we found.
But those that are on the border, how would you say you could help?
One of the things we found that's helped us is, like, for younger students who have a lot of energy and need to burn a lot of that off before they can go into the classroom, like our YouTube channel has follow along workout videos that are like a half an hour for a warm up, and you just play it and you have the kid follow along with the instructor and like get some exercise and burn some energy out. And then they're a little tuckered out, they can sit down and they can be a little calmer. So, like, if a parent's like, hey, my kid's running around a lot, they're kids, man. You gotta give them some sort of outlet for that. You can't have them locked inside. Like, make them run around the block, or like run up and down the stairs a bunch of times, do something.
I would think that there's some household activities, useful like maybe like mow the grass before you get on the call with your teacher.
I'll have students that are like super high energy, and I'll be like, I see that staircase behind you. I want you to bunny hop up the stairs, and then bunny hop up the stairs. All right, you feel better? Now we can focus? All right, cool. Give them, because kids in general, like, my background's actually in early childhood education. And one of the things, kids are constantly growing, right? Learning physically, mentally, and because of that, their attention span is learn from this thing, learn from this thing, learn from this thing. And to get them to dial in for a prolonged period of time, they need to be able to concentrate. And if they're constantly refocusing on different things, that's good for their brain, but not necessarily good for the lesson plan that a teacher might have.
Yeah, we talked last week with Chad about, and you probably have some thoughts on this too from a different angle, about how fast everything is now. Like, I mean, everything that kids can go from one video to another like tidbit to a meme to whatever, and they're constantly stimulated. For some kids, that helps keep their attention, but for other kids, it may not be as. So, do you find that? And you've been doing this for a few years now. Do you find that that kids are, like, just in general, forgetting the corona thing, do you think that they're having trouble paying attention because of the device time, or I mean, I know it's kind of cliche to say that, but
it's hard. Every generation, there's always a little bit of pushback on new technology and it being used to learn. Like, my generation was kids watch too much TV. The generation after us, it's kids on too much tablet time. Before that, it was kids listening to the radio too much. Before that, too much time on video games. Or even my grandparents' generation, it was like, don't listen to the radio, you got work to do. Like,
radios of the devil.
It's true.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah.
There's some pushback, but at the same time, I think yeah, like staring at a screen all day or doing any one thing all day can really hinder your ability to concentrate on it. You know, you remember back in college, you staring at a book all day trying to cram for a test, and your brain is just not there. Like being
Yeah.
able to,
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, just being able to switch it up. Sometimes, yeah, you're right. Like if a kid can switch from a video and then like alt tab out and be watching memes on mute while the teacher's talking, that's not going to help them, right?
That's not gonna help.
Like what
Actually,
I do is
you saw the thing about
students back up and like put their hands like where I can the laptop.
Yeah, I missed that last part. The audio cut out, but you seen the report that this fourth grader changed his name to Reconnecting with an ellipses, so that the teacher doesn't think that he can hear, and so he doesn't have to like pay attention. I'm not offering that as advice to any of our families who would get on a Zoom call. But okay, so what do you feel like has been like in general? What do you feel like has been the biggest character development part that you deal with? In other words, I mean, you and we've had conversations about this, and this is, you know, you teach martial arts, I teach more of a general, you know, curriculum. Civics and math is kind of where I spend my time. All those things are important, but we're really trying to make better people. So what is it you find that's been the biggest challenge there, and what have you done to, you know, make that better for you guys?
The biggest challenge we tend to have right now is with our martial arts training, our goal is to use martial arts as a lens to bring out the best in our students. Not everyone is going to be like an Olympic or national champion or athlete, and that may not be their goal. But we want to help them learn the character building skills of discipline, hard work, integrity, honesty, you know, the things that make any athletic endeavor really help students achieve the best version of themselves. The hard part right now with like trying to do it through Zoom or trying to do it through online classes is, one, kids have a harder time generally focusing on a screen. Martial arts athletic activity is very much a one-on-one, like physical involvement. Like when you throw a punch, there's a visceral feedback when or, you know, an instructor will like physically adjust a person's posture or hand movement to make sure they have the right way of doing it. And for people who are kinesthetic or visual learners, that's going to help them a lot. And even as like a in-school classroom teacher, you know, you'll realize like sometimes you got to sit down with a kid one-on-one and like walk them through step by step, and you lose a lot of that personal connection with the student trying to do it through the screen a lot. And then the other side of that is parents, honestly. Like parents are trying to work, they're trying to help their kids with classes, they're trying to get them into Zoom classes, and they can't be jumping back and forth. And sometimes we'll have students like, I'll log in for a Zoom class and they just no show. They don't. And like, I'm like, well, like, yeah, it's annoying, but at the same time, parents like, I'm trying to feed my kid, I got a baby to change, I'm trying to do work, I'm trying to do a Zoom class.
Sure.
Like, oh, I missed something. Like we're all trying to juggle a ton, and it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because, you know, because you're not physically there, and part of the value of having any sort of education outside of the home is that you have another adult who's responsible, and there's accountability and physically there to make sure that things happen the way they're supposed to. I would posit though that there are challenges even when they're at your place though, right? I mean, so even before Zoom. I mean,
we've managed to run camps and have in-person classes. I have students right here at the moment, like they're hanging out and they're playing and they're doing stuff. But, you know, one of the things that has really helped me, and I think it helps a lot of people, is like managing expectations beforehand has really helped me a lot. Like when a student comes in, I say, hey, your classes start at 10 o'clock. No matter what time you're dropped off, until 10 o'clock, you're expected to be seated, calm, quiet, doing something productive, reading a book, playing chess, doing something to challenge your mind, you know, and we're not running, we're not screaming, you know. And if you manage that expectation ahead of time, they just
they are.
Can't see because of the backlighting, but they're just over there.
Yeah, they're breaking the rules. They have a window behind them, right? Yeah,
they have a window behind them. But yeah, so that but yeah, in-person classes, you have the same struggles. Kids have hard time focusing sometimes. You know, they're not feeling 100% that day, and you're like, hey, I get it. You know, but being able to accomplish anything is not about being motivated. Because if you're waiting for motivation, you're not going to do it on days you're not. It's about setting routine, maintaining a habit, working hard even on days you don't feel like it, and just putting the work in. And that's what's going to achieve. Like we always ask my students, like, do you want to be average or do you want to be exceptional? Because if you want to be exceptional, it's not about talent. It's about putting in an exceptional level of work and effort, doing it when you're not feeling 100%, or, you know, stretching on days where you can't kick or punch anymore. So same thing we try to carry over to schoolwork too. Like, hey, I don't feel like doing math today. Well, too bad.
Too bad. Well, that's actually the number one thing that I try to get across to kids is just that concept of too bad. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, life's not here to make things convenient and easy for you. That's not how this works, right? So tell me more about how martial arts in particular makes it easier for or any kind of athletic ability, I guess. It's just but I mean, it's a physical thing, right? So we've been, you know, for years and years, and I would never make any pitch that that kids should spend less than 7 hours in an institution being 5 days a week for 39 weeks a year for 13 years, you know, in a classroom, sitting down at a desk, being educated. Well, let's just assume for a second that we were in a world where that wasn't necessary anymore. Like, you know, the one we're in right now. Apparently. So, yeah. So assuming that's not the case, why is, and I know that you guys, you know, aren't pushing, you know, you don't spend 5 hours a day, you know, training as a martial artist or whatever, unless you.
I do, but I don't expect that of my kids.
Right. You don't expect the kids to. I mean, I'm sure you have those who are, you know, who are at a peak, you know, and they're going to the Olympics or, you know, whatever, but for normal everyday kids, talk to me more about how that the physical exertion and the physical hard work and the training and the discipline, even to a degree where someone might think it distracts from, you know, their instructional time or whatever. How important is that to you?
So my personal mindset, the way I approach it is, you know, I've been raised in the martial arts community since I was 5 years old. I learned Okinawan karate from my grandfather, who was an old World War II Marine who learned it in Japan during that period. That's how I started.
You're the karate kid, right? You just started younger, right? Okay, I got you.
The original focus, like, martial arts is about developing mind and body and making them work together. So, like, we teach students, like, okay, learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. If you're learning a new skill or working on a push-up when your body aches a little bit, learn to push through it. And I'm not saying do it until you're hurt, but, you know, you're uncomfortable, that's good, you're growing. That's the same thing for mindset. And then we also teach like forms and patterns, which require high level, not only body awareness, but memorization, control of your body, control of your mind, putting yourself in a position and being able to hold it before you move to the next one, demonstrating power and focus and intent. And all of these they're no different than any sort of other education. My big concern as a martial artist is every year, like, martial arts is actually a shrinking industry for a number of reasons.
How's that possible?
One is that a lot of schools don't focus necessarily on the integrity of the art, meaning they're become more like martial arts themed daycare programs. So that's part of it. The other aspect is, unfortunately, one that we're dealing with right now, which is studio locations. Retail spaces are very expensive, and martial arts, like,
especially here, you know, I mean.
And then the other aspect is people are starting to have a mind-body disconnect. Like, people don't always realize that your mind, your brain, your self, however you want to interpret it, is in your physical body. And if your physical body gives up because you don't keep it strong and healthy and active and limber, then the rest of you is going to go along with it. So people focus on idolizing intelligence or intellect, but they neglect the body that intellect is within. So, like, you can be very smart and take care of your body and be athletic And if you're athletic, your heart rate's lower, you're less excitable, your stress level's lower. That allows you to focus and grow your mind as well. So like they work in unison. Like mind and body are the same thing. They're the same posture, the
Sure.
same physical form. So you need to keep them both in tune, or one's going to let the other slip.
Yeah. This is a point where
I think you just froze. Oh no.
yeah, I think you froze for a second.
Oh,
Yeah,
there we
but
go.
and this is a point where I point out that as much time as we spend at INDEAD and great conversations and all the other things that, in the podcast, what we do is on sort of Western civilization and the great ideas and the great books and all that. And I think, and I've said it for weeks, and I've said it for years, and I mentioned it to another guest we had a few weeks ago, Randy, about, we need a little Eastern philosophy in our lives too, and that sort of holistic, mind and body as one. The West has traditions like that, but we've kind of ditched them in a sense. Like we've left them, we've kind of put them to the side, and we've decided that everybody should go to college and educate their brain, and that's what matters. And I think there is I think there is
education is important.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think education is important and being able to learn as much as you can, but everybody learns differently. Like I didn't go to college until I was in my 30s.
Sure.
I was an electrician for a little while. Like trade school was fantastic for me. All the lighting in our studio I rewired because it didn't work when we got the space.
Sure.
But everybody learns and has their own strengths, whether that's physical, mental, social. Some people are very good at interacting with other people. But Eastern, Western philosophy, I think really, like even old school, like my grandparents, they would exercise every morning and then do their work, or they would do whatever else they needed to and then do their study or whatnot. Like even like we have physical education in our classes for a reason. It's to help
Yeah, but they've been pared down to an almost like almost not. Look, I remember last year I did a little video on recess. So if you get a chance, if you're on the YouTubes and you see this, go find the one on recess. I mean, they made a big deal out of getting like elementary school kids to like 30 minutes a day of recess. And 30 minutes a day, like being able to exert and like run around.
Like our classes.
Wow, 30 minutes. I mean, that's insane, right? That's so yeah, I think we talk about exercise, but I think we're also so obsessed with the credentials and the instructional time. Actually, how they got 30 minutes or 40 minutes, whatever it is in some cases, of recess in public schools here, right? You know how that happened? They decided to count it as instructional time. I mean, that's how they pulled that off, right? I mean, they passed a regulation saying, okay, it's instructional time, so you can let them run around for a little longer, right?
I think there's something to be said for serious levels of education. I think there's something to be said for serious levels of fitness training as well.
Sure.
Again, it goes back to the fact that your mind and your body, they're the same, they're parts of who you are. And if you let one slip, the other's going to slip with it. And I always advocate students, like I'll have students who are super tired from martial arts class, and then they sit down and they read a book. Not because necessarily they want to read a book, because they just need to lay down for a hot minute and that gets them something to do sometimes,
And it actually, it feeds upon each other, right? In other words, by the
absolutely.
same token, if you want to accomplish something physically, it really helps if you have a mental discipline, to be able to focus on something. And I'm sure you find that the kids who can read a book and pay attention and focus on a conversation are also just as capable of doing something physically that requires concentration and repetition.
Absolutely. Our every week we go over with our students a different focus or character building lesson. Last week's character building lesson was actually on the ability to focus. Focusing on large scale aspects, like parts of your life, focusing on mid scale aspects like being able to pay attention in a class, whether the teacher's talking, focusing on small aspect details like if you're throwing a punch, part of your hand you're striking with or what angle, or if you're in school, like really paying attention to the way the math is laid out so that you can understand the puzzle that's put in front of you. And if you're good at one, you can be good at the other. And if you get better at one, it's going to encourage and help and become synergistic with all the other aspects of your life. So neglect one, the same thing's going to happen.
Yeah, I was thinking that's absolutely true. It is kind of connected, and the West does have a tradition like that. We always tend to forget it. It's called Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius was it was one of the only real philosophical things we got from the Romans, right? Was this concept of focus and stillness and trying to finding purpose and taking the time to the closest thing that we see in the West right now is like my dad and a lot of really good Christians that I know, they start off their day reading the Bible, having some prayer time. That's kind of as close as we get. But I think it's and some people it's running. Like some people get up every day and they got their music and they're running, and that's sort of the way that they get their body and their mind to start kind of working together, right? So do you have a pretty intense like exercise routine yourself, or is it all just martial arts training?
So right now I'm actually prepping for my next Don test. I'm going to be flying out to California and testing under a grandmaster in California for my next degree, probably awesome. In December. He's a old school Marine, and he actually helps run the military martial arts program as well for the U.S. Marine Corps. And I come in the morning, I lift weights. I have a weight room in the back of the studio. I come in,
yep.
And then in the evening, I'm in here at 7 a.m. Right now, I don't leave until 7 or 8 p.m. So I'm in here 12, 13 hours a day. And then from 8 to 9, I do my martial arts training, and then I go home and go to bed. Right now, because of everything, no free time, but yeah, I'm
overrated.
It's easier when you like your job.
Yeah, no doubt. Do you think there's two theories of that, right? The one is, do what you love for a living and you'll never work a day in your life. And the other is do what you love for a living and it'll become a job and you'll hate it, right? So those are the two options.
I think there's a little bit of both in there. I definitely
there's probably a little bit of both. Yeah, I'm with you. Well, so do you think that I don't know, what's this next year look like for you? What do you guys, are you hosting some learning pods and that kind of stuff, or trying to avoid that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we're doing remote classroom stuff. Like we'll give kids access to Wi-Fi, and we set up tables and chairs, and
sure.
I'll help them log on for their classes if they need it. And then at the end of their school day, we'll do martial arts training and stuff. So we're trying to adapt, but to be honest, this past 3 months has been really rough. It's my life savings in the studio. And
really, you put resources into your business, and there's consequences for telling people you can't run it. That's
a risk, right? That's the risk we take.
Right.
We
probably didn't plan on the government telling us we can't run our businesses for a few months because of a pandemic, right? That probably wasn't in your cards.
That was not. We were doing pretty well, and then 100% shut down for 4 months, kicked us in the nethers a little bit. So
yeah,
thankfully we're working with our property managers and stuff, and we're managing, but it's rough. And then a lot of people, even if they're not worried about that stuff, we've been trapped in our houses for 3 months. The physical fitness aspect. I have students who are really fit before March. And they come in and they're finally back in classes, and they're trying to crank out 3 push-ups. And I'm like, we all got to start from the beginning. You've been in a 12 by 12 room for 6 months. So
yeah, no doubt. Well, look, if you need anything, let us know. And thanks so much for coming on and doing this. I think it's just good for all of us to get as many perspectives and know that there's some resources out there, some other people who are passionate about helping kids, become better human beings is, kind of what it mostly boils down to. So thanks for coming on. And what's that?
I said, that's the goal. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. So, oh, before I let you go, we do have one thing that we ask of all of our guests, and that is to give us one rule. There's it's called Rules of the Games. It's just
Okay.
the name of yep. So sometimes I forget, but I didn't this time. So you're gonna have to gotta think of one rule. It could be a rule for life. It could be a rule for what you do for martial arts. It could be a rule for how to properly beat a child. I'm just kidding. Whatever it is, like rules for life, right? Like mine
Yeah.
is my big rule is two things can be true at the same time, right? That's my rule. So now yours is I could pull yours easily from our conversation, and that is work hard, right? I mean that's a good one, right? But you probably got one. You may have one that's
I have a few that kind of fall in the same category, but the easiest one we can go with is learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Like, if you're not uncomfortable in some fashion, you're not growing, whether it's socially putting yourself in situations or mentally trying to stretch your mind and learn new skills, or physically pushing yourself to get stronger, more flexible, and then there's the obvious quote that goes along with that, which is hard work overcomes talent when talent refuses to work hard. So that's one of my favorite quotes in life.
That's a really good one. That's true. But I think that first one is the perfect rule because, and I tell that to everybody I talk to, especially as it comes to more, contentious, political conversations or religious conversations or philosophical conversations. You find that people don't want to be uncomfortable, approaching certain. So it applies to a lot of things. So I appreciate that. Well, for those of y'all who are watching or listening, thanks for tuning in, and go have a great conversation, but follow the rules.